Welcome to the Oddity Shop, where the bizarre is always on sale.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Oddity Shop. This is our podcast. I am here with Kara, I am Zach, and we appreciate you coming back or tuning in for the first time.
What up?
Kara, how's your night going?
I mean, there's a lot going on in my brain today, so.
I feel like you're just sitting taking Snapchats of your dog, but
No, that wasn't Snapchat. That was just a normal picture. She's cute.
Fair. I'm going to jump into it with a question for you today. Are you ready?
Probably not.
You've been abducted? Abducted?
I don't know what that means.
I'm going to try again. You've been abducted by UFOs. You know.
More than one?
A UFO, probably multiple aliens on board.
Okay.
You know in your heart that this happened, it's true. Who are you telling the story to first, and do you go public with it?
Okay, well, this almost happened to me when I was in middle school, and Chris Arrington, shout out to Chris if you're listening. I actually saw him this summer, which is the first time I've saw him in a long time, and he remembers everything the exact same way that I did, and the first people we told were my brother and my parents. And if they had social media when we were in middle school, I would have went on there.
Okay, I'm going to hold back my story for a minute. I want to hear this. What?
Okay, so, Kyle is, what is he, like 4 years younger than me? Chris is in the grade under me. And we'd always hang out, like we were like mutual, like Kyle and I had a mutual best friend, Chris Arrington. He lived on the street. We did everything together. He was always at my house, whatever. It's like a summer night and we're spending the night, or he's spending the night. We're having a sleepover. And we were like watching movies and stuff. I don't even know what we were doing. And then we're all sleeping on the living room floor. It's like our favorite thing to do. And Kyle always passes out at like 8 o'clock. So he's like sleeping. It's probably, I don't know, I would maybe say like midnight. Like, cause we were up late. Like we were just like talking or whatever. All the lights are off. My parents are in the bedroom sleeping. And all of a sudden, and I will never forget this. And so when I saw him this past July and I had to ask him about this and he remembers it in detail like I do, I was like, okay, I'm not crazy then. Okay, I don't know how to explain this, but it was almost like floodlights in every single window of our living room. So there's like a big bay window and then two other like normal like windows and the front door, and the bathroom window, like the bathroom door was open. So that window and like all the kitchen windows, like I'm telling you, the whole entire, what felt like the whole entire house was like lit up bright. Somehow my brother still slept. We couldn't see down the hallway and into like the other bedrooms. So I have no idea. Like my parents obviously didn't wake up, but it was so bright. And all of the curtains on the windows, like they're like the long, more drapes, I guess you could say, were like flooding like towards us. Like a huge gust of wind was like pushing them in. Like, I don't know how to explain that. Does that make sense? Like,
yes.
So it's like this huge bright light like over the house shining through all of the windows, and then no air or anything, but all of the drapes just like floating towards us, which felt like 15-20 minutes, but I know was probably maybe a minute tops. And then freaking silence. Nothing. And so I'm convinced that it was a UFO hovering above our house. Don't tell me wrong. And when I told my grandma, she was like, it was. And I'm like, I know, Grandma.
I just want you to hold on to everything you just said, because tonight I'm telling you an alien story of the Berkshire UFO incident.
Oh.
And I feel like you are about to hear a lot of very close similarities.
No.
We really did not talk about this beforehand. Just so
I'm going to pee my pants.
Okay. So I guess though, like you told family, whatever about it, but what do you have told the public?
I guess define public. Like, is it the time where you have to go to the newspaper, or is it like now where I can like go to social media?
I guess we'll go now.
Then probably, yeah.
Okay. That's what some people did back in this incident. And are you ready for the whole story?
I'm not going to sleep tonight. Go.
So I was going to start with, word for word, imagine you're driving in the car with your family, the entire vehicle lights up, all noise stops and you feel weird pressure, Next thing you know, you wake up hours later in a different place and you have strange marks on your body. So we have some similarities here.
Oh my God.
1969 in the Berkshires, Massachusetts.
It's Berkshire?
The Berkshires is made up of multiple counties.
How's it spelled?
Berkshire.
It's not Berkshire?
No, it's Berkshire.
Berkshire?
Yeah.
Where's Berkshire?
I think it's like tomato.
Okay, I'm not trying to be mean. Is that a different place?
I think it's the same place. I think we're just saying it different ways.
Okay,
I could be wrong. Anyways, hot summer night in Massachusetts.
Good job. You did it.
Thank you. Lights descend all over the county. Over 40 people report seeing UFOs in the skies. But for some families, their experience goes a little bit further. Let's get a little background, right? So there's a region in West Massachusetts, Northwest Connecticut, known as the Berkshires. It's made up of 6 counties. And then most of the sightings that took place this day were in Berkshire County, Massachusetts. So these are towns that are east of the Housatonic River, kind of large, like wilderness, rural areas, a lot of like small towns intermixed in, right? It gets a lot of attention from tourists and people who love to hike, people who love nature.
Okay.
The towns themselves are like quiet, normal neighborhood, small town feel. It's out of the hustle and bustle of like, the city. We're in Connecticut and Mass, so we got Boston and everything nearby. Like New York isn't that far off. It's just like a quiet, typical suburban
Wait,
life.
can I just tell you something? I just figured out what I was thinking of. The Shire from the Lord of the Rings.
I kind of thought so, but you know what? We're just gonna keep going.
Okay, go.
All right. So these sightings take place September 1st, 1969. It's Labor Day weekend. A lot of people are spending time with their families and friends. It's a super hot summer night. So what do summer nights sound like, right? Like there's background noise. You got the crickets. You got frogs, just cicadas. Like when you're in a rural area at night, it is not quiet.
No.
So mostly normal day, nothing out of the ordinary. Except for 40 people who describe seeing flying discs, glowing orbs of lights, and strange things hovering in different parts of this county. And the counties, it's 6 counties, it's spread over miles.
Okay.
So some people are seeing them staying still, some are seeing them kind of hover around, others see them landing in water or fields and then just taking straight off into the sky.
Okay, and I'm sorry if you already said this, but what time?
It's kind of like dusk evening, right? Like people are starting to head home from their days.
All right. Oh yeah, because that family was driving home.
Right.
Okay.
So people call into the radio station and they do call into the sheriff's office to report a bunch of this, but a lot of it isn't really recorded. Words are really hard to say. Recorded it. Is treated as quote unquote a bunch of baloney. Now that is a straight quote. There is a
from who?
It's a gentleman who runs a convenience store. There's a Unsolved Mysteries episode about this on like the new Netflix Unsolved Mysteries.
And he says
that the sheriff treated it like it was a bunch of baloney. I love it.
So he didn't think it was baloney. He was just, that was what he said. Okay.
Right. So while a lot of people are seeing some crazy stuff in the sky, right? A few other people have some way, way more profound experiences. So we're going to go into those stories. Are you ready?
No.
We're going to start with kind of like basic and get into some more intense, right? I'm just going to forewarn you right now. We have a lot of repeated names in this. So if you get confused, stop me. But we got a couple Janes. We got a couple Toms. Let's start with Jane Green. Jane Green, she's out with her friend Mary DeGrace. It's getting late. They start heading home because Jane's 2 sons are being watched by the neighbor, right? She's got to get home to her kids. So Jane and Mary are driving down the road. Up ahead, they see in front of them what they think are a ton of police lights. As they get closer and closer, the lights get brighter and brighter. They realize this isn't police at all. So Jane says it gets so bright that she literally cannot even continue to drive. So she pulls over. As she does, the car in front of them also pulls off to the side of the road. And she claims that she will never forget what happens next. because it wasn't police lights at all, what they were seeing was a huge object floating 15 to 30 feet above the road. And from where they were and like looking straight on at it, they could not see either end of it.
I don't like this.
She describes the object as bronze, silver-ish in color, very tall, no windows, and it made no noise, but had lots of beams of light coming off of it. So she sees it no more than a few seconds after they pull off the road. It lifts straight up, shifts to the left, hovers there for a second, and then just flies off into the air.
And the car in front of her is still just parked there too?
Yep, so they're both just kind of watching this, right? So Jane tells her husband, he's like, you have to go to the radio station and tell them what happened.
Do you feel the most powerful and beautiful with the elements of the earth around you? Do you like one-of-a-kind jewelry? Do you sometimes feel like a woodland fairy? Me too. That's why I created Holly and Hemlock, a magical shop filled with handmade wooden jewelry and metaphysical tools. Come check out our enchanting wooden wares at www.hollyhemlock.com and join us in honoring the magic and beauty of nature with each unique creation. That's www.hollyhemlock.com.
It's so funny. Sorry, it's so funny to me that everyone just goes to the radio station.
That's what I was going to say. It's like late 60s. You don't have social media. How do you get the word out quickly?
Let's
right?
go to the radio.
So they're friends with the radio personality at the time who looks at them and goes, all right, like Jane and Mary, you guys have been out drinking. You need to go home. Okay.
Having a little too many cocktails.
Jane and Mary decide they're just never going to talk about it again. They don't want to be labeled as crazy. At the same time, remember...
Wait, I'm sorry. The guy at the station, he never, not reported. What's the word? He never put it on the air. He never told their story,
yeah, no,
right?
No.
Okay. He just said, you guys are crazy drunks, bye.
Right.
Okay.
So remember, the neighbor is watching Jane's sons at this time. So while this is happening, the two sons are wrestling in the front yard when they catch out of their corner of their eye bright lights coming from the sky. They immediately stop, go to the neighbor who is watching them and try to tell her the story. And she's like, quit playing games and don't tell your mom.
Quit playing games with my heart.
Wow.
Sorry, I had to do it.
That's stuck in my head now.
Okay, go.
So she tells them, don't tell your mom. You don't need to freak her out with this stuff. It's really kind of because like the sheriff and the radio station weren't taking people seriously. It's years later until people start talking about this a lot, right?
Of course.
Mary's sitting with her sons, Mary's the friend.
Oh,
Jane.
God. Now you're already getting Mary and Jane's confused. You can't do this.
Jane is sitting with her sons, and it's becoming kind of more popular, this whole incident.
So this is years later you're talking? Okay.
Years later. And she goes, me and Mary saw them. The kids go, why didn't you tell us? We saw them too. She goes, why didn't you tell me? Right? Because they all just kind of like swore that they would never talk about this again.
That's so wild. Can you imagine being in that moment if you were like Denise Sweat and then you guys tell each other like the same story?
Oh, this is nothing yet.
I'm sure it's not, but I just think that would be so creepy.
Right, like find out years later that what you probably have written off in your head is something that didn't happen. Somebody who wasn't with you corroborates it. And
then also, can you imagine how crazy you probably felt for years? And you could have had that person to be like, no, you're not crazy because I was way over here and saw the same thing. Mom.
Ready for the next story?
No.
Okay, now we have Tom Warner.
What?
Tom Warner.
That's my dad's name, right?
I did not. I've never known your dad's name.
Yeah, Thomas Warner.
Huh. Well, this is Tom, Thom, Tom.
Okay. No. Mine was not that.
All right. He's one of two Toms. We can call this one Thom if you want to give him nicknames. But
I'm just going to call him not my dad.
Fair. You're not my dad. So Tom is the next story. Tom is 12 years old on the night of September 1st, 1969. He is also at his neighbor's house. So he was friends with the neighbor kid. And they would regularly color together. So they're playing with their Crayolas. Totally normal night.
I hope that they had the box with the pencil sharpener in it.
Oh, that was the best one.
That probably wasn't done there. Done there?
We can't speak.
You weren't cool and you were poor if you didn't have the sharpener in the crayon box. I didn't have it.
I mean, probably because you weren't cool.
I wasn't.
Anyways, so He's coloring with a neighbor girl. He finishes his picture first. He goes and decides to look out the window. He hears a voice in his head.
No.
He describes it as almost as if it came from God saying, "You need to go home now."
Wait, how old is he again?
12 years old.
Oh.
So he's petrified, right? He looked at his friend and her mom and says, "I need to go home now." And he runs out the door. As he's running, he becomes filled with like immense fear. Like an energy, right? Like he described, it's not his energy, it's just a weird energy.
Okay.
So he's running full speed home. At some point, though, he realizes something is terribly wrong because he's looking down at the ground and he's looking at a rock ahead of him.
He didn't already think something was wrong when he thought God told him to leave.
The rock is not moving. So he is running. He realizes
Oh my God, he's like running
in
in place. That's in every nightmare you have where you're just running and somebody's running with a knife behind you and you're not going anywhere.
So he turns around to try to look back at the neighbor's house and notices there's a UFO in the sky and a bright beam of light comes down off of it and hits him. Oh. He describes feeling the light, a strange pressure, and all the night's sounds disappear as if he's in a vacuum.
I don't like that.
Seconds later, he disappears. This story is corroborated by the neighbor's mom, whose name is also Jane.
She saw this?
She, as he's running home, she kind of hears the commotion while they're coloring. She decides to, this kid just bolted out of her house, so she's going to watch him. He disappears. Okay?
Wait, she sees him disappear?
She sees him disappear.
Did they ever find this child?
We're going to come back to him. We're going to leave Thom for now. And we're going to talk about Melanie Kirchdorfer. So our third friend of the evening, Melanie, her friend, and her parents, it's typical, it's Labor Day stuff, right? So they decide they're going to go get ice cream. They're going to drive up to Lake Mansfield and eat it together.
Cute.
So her dad backs into the parking spot, and within a couple minutes of them eating their ice cream, a bright light lights up the entire car as if it's floodlights. Okay. In typical dad fashion, the dad immediately yells, "Holy shit." Which leads the kids to freak out. Mom tries to calm everyone down. She says it's just a shooting star.
What?
So what does dad do? He puts the car in drive and he decides to follow it. The next thing Melanie remembers is the car levitating, her being in a ship, and her being tied down on a table.
Mm-mm.
Nobody else in the car has any memories of this kind of thing, right? They also, all their memory goes blank at the levitating.
So what do they... Okay, you'll tell me.
We're going to go back to Thom now.
Oh my God, are you kidding me?
Thom is inside the ship. He's standing in a room full of other children. He looks around and he notices a girl from his community, Melanie. And one by one, the kids were disappearing.
What?
So it's kind of important to note that. So Melanie and Thom, they're like familiar with each other. They're
not friends though.
But they're not friends. Like they don't have any sort of relationship.
Right. So they wouldn't be talking about this to each other or making this up together.
Right. But he recognizes her face.
Okay.
Like that's somebody from my community. Thom's next memory after that, and this is his words, was being laid gently like a baby onto the ground in just about the same spot he disappeared from.
Why is that so sweet but really also terrifying?
It gets even scarier yet. So he still can't move. He hears the voice again saying, "Everything will be over in a minute." The light disappears and he can move again. So his neighbor friend, her mom is still watching out the window, watches Thom reappear, and it's been 7 minutes.
I was going to say it's probably been like
disappearance
nothing.
To when he reappears is 7 minutes.
Does he say how long he was gone?
No.
Okay.
There's a story coming up though, which will clear some of that. Melanie comes back to at the same park that her family had pulled up to eat ice cream. Remember, they took off after the alien.
Oh, yeah.
She's no longer in a car. She has to walk miles home to meet her family. She gets there, and they're not only confused as to where she was.
Or how they got home.
They don't know how they got home. They don't know why she wasn't with them.
Oh, my God.
It's small rural town, right? These two really don't talk much about it until the next story I tell you about.
Reminds me what year this happened in?
1969.
69, okay.
the next story I'll tell, he's kind of like the guy who really brought a lot of attention to it, right?
Mhm.
And kept pestering about it, right? So these people kind of like push everything down deep. So Melanie meets Tom again years later at a meetup of people who are impacted by the event.
Okay, wait, hold on. Let me ask you a question. Does she remember seeing him though?
No, he remembers seeing her. She doesn't remember him.
Okay.
But they're at this meetup and they kind of like lock eyes and realize,
It like comes back to them.
yeah. So she says that they have a bond that is so strong, like they were siblings immediately after meeting, even though they were completely like strangers before the event.
That's weird.
All right. So our last story of contact is another Tom. This is Tom Reed. Tom Reed gets a lot of credit. He's been the most kind of vocal about like, we're not going to be quiet just because people are telling us we're crazy.
Yeah.
So Tom Reed is with his whole family. He actually rides horseback, right? So his whole family had come out. So mom, grandma, and his sisters come out to watch him at a horse show. Background on Tom. So their family lived in the city. They moved out to Sheffield, which is in the Berkshires, to kind of get out of city life, right? Mom buys and opens her own restaurant, become like, upstanding members in the community. They are really, really happy to live there.
Mm-hmm.
They're coming home from the horse show. They decide to get dinner, and then they're going to take a shortcut home on the rural back roads.
Not a good idea.
Goes across the Housatonic River, and it's a covered bridge. Like the old style wood awning covered bridges.
Like in Beetlejuice when they die.
Exactly. Yeah. Like if you picture it in your head, pretty much the same thing, right? They're going across the bridge. The kids are acting up in the back seat. So mom, who's driving, grandma's passenger seat.
Okay.
Mom turns around, try to get the kids to calm down. As she looks back ahead of her, she sees one of the UFOs hovering over the road, much like Jane Green did at the beginning of this.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. Why'd you say it like that? Okay.
Okay.
Okay, honey.
And also, I don't know about this car because I know Tom said sisters and brother. I'm pretty sure there's like 4 people abreast in the back seat, right?
Oh,
Tom's
okay.
brother looks off to the side of the river and he sees another UFO come off of the banks.
Oh my God, there's
So now they have 2. Tom looks out his window and sees yet a third. So they're basically, as they're coming out of this covered bridge, they're in a triangle around them. They describe them as having like a turtle shell shape or like...
Oh, that's a good description.
If you think about like when you used to draw like an ice cream cone, like a ridge on the outside and then a bump in the middle. All of them are hovering 2 to 3 stories off the ground. They describe them just like everyone else did. They're glowing. They're kind of this metallic shifting color with lights coming off of them. One of them describes it like almost shifting like an ocean wave, but it is a solid thing.
Okay.
As soon as they see all 3 of these, a couple things happen. Their car lights up like floodlights.
Oh my God.
They feel an immense pressures if they're in jello, and they say they're like basically same thing in a vacuum with no sound. So all the crickets, all the cicadas, all that just drifts away.
Gone.
You can't hear. It's just silence. As it starts to happen, right? Like mom's pulling the car over to figure out what the fuck is going on. One of the UFOs is basically right in front of them. They start to hear a loud tapping sound on the car. Their next memory, all of the sounds of the night coming back. However, they're parked near the pharmacy 3 miles away in town. Grandma's in the driver's seat.
Grandma.
Mom is in the passenger seat. Grandma did not have a driver's license. So it's not only like they're remembering something incorrectly, like grandma doesn't drive.
Grandma can't drive.
Okay. So to them, this whole ordeal of crossing the bridge, seeing the UFOs, and being in front of the pharmacy feels like 15 minutes, and it's well over 3 hours.
So, but they all do remember seeing them?
They all remember seeing them.
Okay.
Just like everyone else. They all remember seeing them. They remember the lights, and then their memory goes blank.
3 hours?
The only person who really remembers anything is the first time we talked about.
And I wonder if it's because he's a little kid.
I mean, so all these kids are right around the same age.
Oh, yeah, I guess you're right.
The difference is, though, from everyone else, is that Tom and his brother have odd marks all over their bodies. Almost like it looks like a burn mark, but they don't feel any pain.
Ew. Do they go away?
They do. But both Tom and his brother lose all of their hair in their early 20s. Their eyesight, which they didn't wear glasses before this, and they were 10 to 12, right? Like, if you had bad, like, people need readers when you get older, right? But these guys, like, they have like the huge bifocal lenses now. Okay, their eyesight rapidly declines, and both of them have differing amounts of nerve damage.
Ew.
So theirs is probably, like I said, one of the most intense of the contacts of this night.
That's so strange.
Tom and his family go public with it pretty much immediately. Right, they're telling their family and friends, but the town really doesn't take it that well.
Is this still in 69?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're kind of like, I guess, the guinea pigs of anyone else coming forward and talking about what they saw, right? They are so shunned and harassed by the community for being crazy that people stalk them, follow their cars back to their house.
They get hate mail.
Ends up selling her restaurant and moving the entire family away. Like, this was their dream place to be, like, quiet, small town.
That's so sad.
It takes a long time for everyone to start kind of talking about it, right? And mind you, 40 people did see this because they were calling into the police station, the radio. So a bunch of years later, in like the early 2000s, historians kind of want to pick this back up, right?
Hold on 1 second, though, before we get into that. So 40 people have like made claims. Did they try shutting it down and tell them what they thought it was? Do you know? Or they were just like, this didn't happen. How did they think all these 40 people just like called each other and was like, let's all gag the radio station?
I mean, it was, so the radio station, 40 people called the radio station and the sheriff's station.
Okay, right. But I'm just saying, like, they didn't say, like, you know how you always hear it's like gas balls or something. Like, they didn't give them any sort of...
I don't know.
Okay.
Because it's really not well documented. So because the fact that the radio station, the cops weren't taking them seriously, they didn't document the calls well.
Okay.
So one of these historians in the Berkshires years later started trying to, like, recontact people. So he's the one who found, like, 40 people.
Gotcha.
Saw it. And then, obviously they knew of Tom Reed and his family. And they tracked down these other Tom Warner, Melanie Kirchdorfer, Jane Green, like, who also had
experiences.
Right. Like I said, a lot of the town thinks it's a hoax, right? Because this all also happened about a month after we landed on the moon.
Oh.
So that's the other thing.
Weird.
People are like, well, we just landed on the moon. Like, of course, everyone's staring at the sky and having, like, UFO experiences or making shit up.
That's so weird, though.
So here's where it gets weird, and I'm going to get into a couple of my theories, okay? Before I get into my theories, Tom Reed took a lie detector test.
Okay.
And it says that he was 99.1% truthful in telling what happened. So,
which we could argue that those things are not as accurate, but I feel like
they're not. I don't believe in lie detectors as like, this question you lied, this one you didn't. But what they test is your heart rate and stuff, right? So if somebody is, I feel like if you're completely making something up, you're going to have a physiological reaction that's different.
Unless you're like a sociopath, yeah.
Right. I think they're more not telling truth from lies, but what you believe to be true.
Right. Yeah.
So, do you remember 2014, 2015 was the year that the Pentagon started to, like, confirm UFO facts? Like, they dropped all those documents.
Okay, yeah.
And said, like, hey, we've been collecting this stuff for a while. We don't know what this is. This is the same year that the governor of Massachusetts, 2015, Charlie Baker, meets with the historian and says, yeah, this is something that happened in our area. These people experienced something.
Wow.
So because of Tom's family, like the harassment and everything they got, Charlie Baker, the governor, actually commemorates a park near the Sheffield Bridge where they saw everything. I don't know the reason for this. I know you're going to ask me, but at first they placed a 5,000-pound granite monument for what happened. But then 4 years later in 2019, they got rid of the monument and replaced it with a sign.
What?
The sign reads...
That seems like a waste of money, though. Where'd that monument go?
They probably repurposed it.
I would hope so.
They're like, we don't need this for the alien guys. We'll use it somewhere else. We'll just put a sign in this park. But the sign now reads, on behalf of the citizens of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, I am pleased to confer upon you this governor's citation in recognition of the off-world incident on September 1st, 1969, which engaged the Reed family, and has been established. Your dedicated service to this incident was factually upheld, founded, and deemed historically significant and true by the means of Massachusetts historians. The recordings highlighting the historic event are now officially part of the Great Barrington County, Massachusetts Historical Society's collection, and this is your induction into Massachusetts history. I'm going to say right now,
I don't know how
I fully believe in UFOs, right? Like,
for sure.
There is no chance we're the only ones in this universe. And
oh, yeah, that's so selfish.
Like, I think we've been visited.
Oh, for sure. We're watched all the time.
There's a couple things that I've thought about, and this is all, like, I didn't find any facts on this, so I could be completely wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's 3 ways you can look at this. One, it was just a hoax. 40 people saw something weird in the sky, right? But then these 3 families come forward for a claim of fame. That's theory 1. Theory 2 is these families were actually contacted by aliens. Or theory 3, which I wasn't leaning towards at the beginning, but 2014 and 2015 is when the Pentagon started releasing
documents
facts about UFOs being real. 2015 is when the governor of Massachusetts says, this is all real that happened here. In my head, if the government was... The Pentagon wouldn't release documents of UFOs being real unless they were trying to hide something else, right?
Yeah.
Like, if this is the theory people are all leaning to of some weird military or technological thing we were testing,
that's true.
They would have no reason to release their UFO docs. Like, I don't know if this comes from my distrust of the government as a whole, but like, they wouldn't prove something without trying to hide something else. And it's weird that the Pentagon was doing that at the same time the governor is saying this is all real to try to shut these people up who are coming out.
Well,
with
and
their
that's
story.
what, when you were reading that sign, I was like, I just don't like that sign because it feels like almost like you're mocking. Like, I don't feel like you're...
It's so wordy. And people tell longer stories when they're lying.
Exactly. It's like you're mocking. It's like you're not... There's no... what's the word? It's not going to come to me. It's fine.
It's fair. So, like, I was totally on board with this being a whole real thing, right? Until it was another article when I was, like, because I was looking up unknown UFO stories, right? Because I could have told the Roswell or whatever, like, I feel like this one's kind of off the wall.
Yeah.
But it's really weird that that sign came out the same time that the government was, like, confirming, yeah, there are a bunch of UFOs and we don't know what they are. Like, when does the government say, hey, there's an issue that we don't have an answer to, here's all the information? Unless there's something else going on behind it.
Yeah. That's really weird. I don't know.
But
I don't not believe it.
I mean, I was kind of in the not believing it until the story you were telling me is almost the same thing, right? Like, everything.
Why weren't you believing it, though?
I was believing it until it just... I just don't trust the government. So it's like, it's weird at the same time that the governor says this factually happened.
Yeah, I don't.
And then we're releasing stuff.
That's tripping me up because I just don't think. And why would you take down the monument?
Right. Like, they're like, oh, this is too much.
That's tripping me up a little bit. That's really interesting, though.
No matter what, something happened to this town. Well,
this group that got together and they were, what was it called? They were talking about their encounters or whatever.
So it's kind of when this historian started to dig into it, and then a couple more of them met when, of course, because Netflix did the Unsolved Mysteries.
But I'm just like, I don't know. I definitely believe it. I believe it happened, but it seems like the government's working with the aliens.
That, or like, if we look at every abduction story or every UFO story, they're all super similar.
But are they super similar because you hear a story and then you're like, ooh, I want to be part of that? But I'm telling you that freaking happened to me. So
right. It's just
that happened to me.
It's just one of those odd things. Like, I fully believe in aliens. I fully believe they visited here. But then at the same time, my like logical brain kicks in. There's got to be some other explanation.
No.
So I just don't know.
Here's where I think that you're okay. They're not green.
No.
they're not like, maybe they're a little odd looking, so they might not look like us, but I don't believe that they're just these like green little creature things. I think they're more like gray.
Oh, the grays.
Like washed out gray.
I could talk about the grays for days.
So I think though when people are like, no, aliens aren't real, it's because you're thinking of like little green creatures. Not that gray creepy. I don't know. I just don't think that I hate alien movies. I will not watch them because I think they're stupid. Okay, maybe the story, the back, like the plot and everything is probably good, but the way they depict aliens throws me off because that's not it. That's not it. So I think that's why your logic kicks in, because you're thinking that they're not just like another humanoid on a different planet, which is totally plausible. Like, why not, right? Like, we can't be that selfish that we think we're the only ones here.
I just think my logic kicks in on a few years back of why did the government, the Pentagon, and the Navy confirm these things exist, right? Because they're like, if you look at like, the Blue Book or Area 51 or all these things that were shrouded in secrecy for so long, what drove the U.S. government to go, there is actually a bunch of shit out here that we don't explain. Go. Here's all the documents we have. That makes me think like there's something bigger behind it. Like it's the red herring, right? Like,
yeah, no,
I'll give you this. I'm
totally with you. But yeah, I mean, I definitely believe that happened to all those people. Like, I just don't see how it didn't. Like, it,
something happened to them. We just will never be able to explain it.
No, but I do think it's probably aliens. Maybe they were just working with the government. They're like, hey, aliens, test out these humans, do a bunch of tests on them, and then tell us how to kill them.
I mean, for sake of time, that is
I was just going to say, we're at almost 45 minutes. We're going to sit here all night talking about this.
Because it is one of those things where, like, there's also theories of that the aliens are working with the government. How do they get us to get off the trail? You say aliens exist, and here's, everything's true the whole time.
True. Oh, I will say, though, really quick, before we leave, because it makes me really sad that I never wrote this down or, like, asked about it again. But when I was really little, I remember my grandma and grandpa, mostly my grandma, telling me about them seeing a spaceship, flying saucer, whatever you want to call it. And she was like adamant. And they lived, they lived across from the Selfridge Air Base.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I want to say it was at that house. I think she was at that house at that time. Maybe it was a different one, but I'm pretty sure it was that. So everyone kept telling her no. It's just like, she's like, no, I'm not stupid. And I remember her telling me this when I was little, and I couldn't sleep for days because I really thought aliens were going to come and abduct me because my grandma told me about them. Like, they're coming for me. And I never, like, I did believe her. Like, I really did believe her, but I didn't want to. I'm telling you, until that freaking day that I almost got abducted by aliens. And tell me why when I was a little kid, I would tell my mom that there was aliens that lived in my laundry room. Why?
Oh, I mean, if you want to go down that route, talk to my mom, where I literally told her I would zip off my human skin, crawl into my closet. My real family would beam me up every night.
I know. I would have hated to be your teacher to have to call Denise.
And oh yeah, she did. Because I told the class about it. She also fed into it and helped me believe it. So
I know, Denise. Well, my mom was like, yeah, my mom did too. She's like, oh, the aliens? Yeah, okay.
But the thing is, we came up with those things at such a young age before we knew all this other stuff. Like,
that's what I'm saying. But how did we? I don't even know where I would have known about an alien.
All right, we are ranting now. We should let these people go.
They probably dropped off forever ago.
Oh yeah, no. Anyone who's still here, thank you so much. Tell Denise, us how crazy
Lynn.
We are.
It's literally Denise and Lynn.
Oh yeah. Tell us if you believe. Tell us if you don't. If you have any weird alien stories of your own,
I want to
hear them immediately. We'll maybe read them back in a bonus episode. Should we do a bonus episode?
Yeah, if people actually write us stuff.
All right, write us stuff. Tell us your interesting, weird, paranormal, creepy, oddball stories, and we'll start reading them back to you.
Yeah, and, do all the things, like, comment, subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. I do want to...
You do want to let these people go?
Yeah, but I wanted to shout somebody out.
Oh.
Okay, his Instagram is Bex Ms _, S. His name is Justin, but he messaged us today about a really good, I'm not going to give it away, but a really good topic that we should cover. And so now I'm like really pumped to like look into it. And I just wanted to shout him out because he's like one of the only people that have.
Awesome. Well, Justin, we appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks, bro.
Keep listening. Your story's coming up soon, or your theme.
No, well, I think I have 2 ahead of that, but so it'll happen. I just don't know when.
Stick around, buddy.
And
who's saying it? Creep it real.
That's my part. All of it. Creep it real, oddballs.
Goodbye.
Bye.